The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Let's go with 6316, 8.8 for 6,000.
Got 6316, North Yelp Road, still maintain 3,000, I'm 1 for the right.
3,000, let's go 6316.
And it's good to have you along for the trip on this Saturday, March 11th, or March 12th if you're on the East Coast. We are coming to you live from the magical, mysterious, much sought-after place of refuge, healing, and peace, Uncle Jimbo's Cabin, located in the Great White North on the far left coast of North America. Welcome all who are listening on WQEE 99 Rock Key in Noonan, Georgia. Welcome all listening at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM, Renegade Talk Radio in Las Vegas, and the High Plains Radio Network. We humbly thank our good guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, once of Guns N' Roses, now of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio Weekend rock, the official spacedoutradio.com music, and we love him for it. Our guitar god is good. Also, you can check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Check out our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. Don't forget it. It's spacedoutradio.com. And if you go to patreon.com, we have some cool offers for you and our listeners there as well. Make sure you check those out. If you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign in to one of our chat rooms on Spreaker at spacedoutradio.com or on the chat room on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. We offer some pretty decent swag, and it's our opportunity to give back to you. We have a new news section there called The Encounter that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editors Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. You can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. And if you have had an experience that you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on. Wow, that was a mouthful. My goodness. Now, let's move on to our guest for the night. I'm not supposed to say this, but Dave Scott told me to say all those things. So, you know, he's got the lungs for it. I, on the other hand, am going, oh, my goodness. Tonight, I am happy to welcome Patricia Vance Forbes. And I am assuming you like to be called Pat, or is it Patricia?
Pat is just fine.
Okay, Pat. I am so happy that you're on, because part of the reason why I'm breathless is that I am currently you're a medical intuitive, and you do a lot of energy healing and organ regeneration, and I'm an experiencer. I'm a former abductee, and I had a lot of the hybrid children gynecological things happen, and now in my older age, one of my organs is trying to kill me by making me anemic, severely anemic. And I've had to go to the hospital and get blood transfusions and things like that. So I think we'll talk about that organ without mentioning it so all the men don't run screaming. My uterus. And I want to ask you, in the work that you do quantum healing, and you also do something that comes from Russia called organ regeneration, and you do medical intuition. With the project of my uterus, what would you do?
I almost said do what I did many years ago for the same reasons, many years ago. I just had it removed.
Well, that's what they're telling me to do. They're saying, you don't want to mess with this, do you? And I'm like, yeah, but isn't it supposed to be in there? I mean, come on, I was born with it. So
okay, let me give you an idea.
Okay.
Have it removed and regrow a new one.
Ooh.
A new healthy one if you still want one.
Can that happen? Is that possible to do with organ regeneration?
Absolutely. From the Russian technologies, they don't call it. I don't even know exactly what they call it, but spiritual scientists over there in the 70s were doing research on this, and actually kept track of all of their cases. And, oh, yes, they could regrow, you can regrow your own uterus and even have children again if you want to.
Oh, my goodness.
I chose not to regrow mine again because I don't want to have more children. I'm too old for that.
Right. Wow.
But actually, if you were to do that, I think the trauma of the whole situation still needs to be resolved.
Yeah, I have a lot of trauma. I've done breath work, I've done regressions, I've done lots of Reiki, I've done other forms of healing. But what's funny is that the trauma keeps coming back up in a different way. Right. And I was particularly mama bearish. I was the get up and scream on the table, you can't do that to me person and when it was happening. So I didn't help myself by chilling out, you know.
Well, who's going to chill out like that?
Yeah, exactly. Mama bear.
Yeah. Well, it's not a chill out situation.
No, it's not. And people who think that we've gotten past it and are kind of cool with it think that it's if you just they sometimes think that we abductees, now contactees are saying, oh, if you just chill out, it'll be all right. It's like, no, we know.
No.
No, we know.
We know better. Yeah. Trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
Through the regeneration work, we use what is called time travel.
Okay.
And that is how we sort of help disperse the trauma.
Okay.
And we can do that on the show later if you want to.
Sure.
It's up to you.
I'm down with all kinds of healing. I am
okay.
All about it. And what I like about you and what you're talking about in your website, you've been doing healing for a long time. We did an emotion code show last week. You do emotion code work.
I do.
You do matrix energetics. Part of the reason I was able to get my book Experience done was because someone did matrix energetics on me, and I had an aha, which was, wait a minute, I don't have to make this hard. And when I had that, I don't have to make this hard, everything became easy.
That's right.
And
all you have to do is press the easy button.
Yeah. And people look at me and they're like, well, I want to learn from you. And I'm like, well, all I know is that, my friend Nathan did matrix energetics on me, and I got out of the, while he was doing some kind of body work, and I got out of the session and had an aha, and everything was easy.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
that's what I love about working with the realm of unlimited possibilities.
Yes, it's very good. Now, is that from Matrix or is that from another type of healing?
Well, what I have found is with all of these new modalities within the quantum realm, they all pretty much work within that whole concept of unlimited possibilities. And I don't know if you looked at the book I'm getting published at all. I don't know if you had time.
I didn't have time.
The Divine Money Portal Activations. That book clears a lot of weird old codes that we all carry, and ancestral as well as our own and past lives, related to old traumas. And it's easy. The way I do it is I just take people through shamanic-type journeys throughout the entire book, and it clears your shit whether you want it to be done or not.
Right.
So I tell people to go through it slow, but the people that have been helping me edit it went through it pretty fast, and they didn't have time to recalibrate very well. So we had to back up a bit. So the book will be out when the book's out.
Right. When the book is out, how fast do you, anybody who is interested in getting it, and you can find it on her website, which is, it's a very long name, so if you could say it for people, Divine.
It's alchemyuniversaltherapies.com.
Okay.
You know, alchemy is like what Merlin does, turning lead to gold. It's alchemy. It's turning your old stuff into being the new you, activating your new divine purpose, or the divine who you are. So alchemy, universal therapies. That's because, excuse me, my allergies are just awful. It's because I work in the shamanic realm of Earth as well as the stars, and working the two together. At the time I was given the name, I think it was about 20 years ago, I really questioned, are you kidding me? This is a long name for a website or a business name. And I kept hearing, no, this is your name. It's Alchemy Universal Therapies. All right, I'll work with it.
Wow.
So that's what I do.
Now, you also say on your website you do ET healing and you work with starseeds. Is it also through quantum energetic healing, or is there another group or some other function there? Or
well,
what's that about?
Sure. With ET healing, usually when I'm working with people, if they are of the DNA appropriateness, my ET teams help me. But sometimes theirs also show up. Within my own office space, when I've had people on the table, I've actually had ETs show up in my room to help with the healings. And sometimes they just tell me to go sit down and watch, and I watch them do the work. But, it's ET healing.
Wow.
And that's because of my DNA, of how much ET DNA I have.
Right.
And what I've been shown about starseeds, in one of the videos on my website, I was speaking at the Star Knowledge Conference and actually had to tell people some truth about me that I had learned about 6 months earlier. And I was scared to death to tell it. Because when I got there, they had cameras for live streaming, recording, plus there was a guy there from National Geographic taking photos and recording stuff. Excuse me. But I was told that I had to speak this truth, that everybody needed to understand this piece, because the elders and the grandmothers would know if I did not speak what I was supposed to speak. So this was about 3.5 years ago, I think. And what happened was I had a hypnotherapy session done, just wanting to know how much of a walk-in I was or what I really am, just out of curiosity. And what I got shown was that I was not a walk-in. I heard, you are not a walk-in. You are spliced in. And it actually resonated with me. I thought, wow, that's kind of weird. So what I saw was at the point of conception, when the egg and the sperm were just starting up here with mom and dad, there was a syringe and a hand holding this syringe off to one side. And inside this syringe was a milky liquid that I knew was DNA from many different benevolent civilizations within the Milky Way galaxy. And then off to the other side, there was a wafer-thin, funny-looking, just a thin wafer, and it kind of had a green tint to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a hand with it, too, and I heard this is from 4 planetary systems from the Andromedan galaxy. And the 2 of them came together into that egg at the exact same time it was starting to divide. And I watched all this, like wafer stuff and the milky stuff going through as each single aspect of the cells as they were dividing and starting the creation of me.
Wow. Now, what's interesting, and Eric Markham and I are going to do a show called Elizabeth and Eric Get Nerdy, and we'll probably talk about this, and I'm going to listen to this again. But, I mean, part of me is thinking, well, was it actual DNA or was it morphic resonance? You know, so my brain is now going, what was it? Was it DNA? Was it morphic resonance? Was it both? You know,
what's the difference? I don't know the difference. I don't know what morphic resonance is.
Morphic resonance is when you have, it's how thoughts, it's just like matrix healing, it's how thoughts affect reality or how information affects the reality around it at a subatomic level, at a quantum level. And so Rupert Sheldrake, who is an actual, you know, academic scientist who works in this field, and, you know, unfortunately he's in the UK and they are very skeptical and cynical there, but he writes a lot about it. So look it up. It's Rupert Sheldrake. He's kind of before Matrix, you know, and he's sort of the academic side of all of that. And what he would say is that like begets like. That and this is one reason why if people meditate on peace, you find the surroundings become more peaceful. That is...
Nope, I was just asking while you were talking about this. I'm sorry to interrupt. But no, it really was DNA.
Okay.
And I have asked at times, I said, so how much ET am I and how much Earth am I?
Right.
And I was told I was 97% ET and 3% Earth.
Oh, my goodness.
To hold the body. Exactly. Yeah, it kind of freaked me out when I heard that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's amazing. Well, and very, very interesting. I've never looked at my situation from that perspective, and that's very cool that you did that. I've got some questions I can tell are coming in because my Facebook is dinging at me. So hold on one second. I'm going to see what the questions are. I'm sorry that I left it on the radio that way, but hold on one second. I'll be looking for you guys. You and I talked earlier about doing, now the work that you do now, you can do group healings and group, do you do group activation of DNA, or is it group healing, or what is it that you do with groups?
All of the above. It just depends on what the situation calls for.
Okay. Now, for our group is a lot of regular listeners who love the show, who a lot of us are starseeds and experiencers or have communications and events with aliens. For us tonight, what might you do?
Well, I think it would be a good thing to do a form of this trauma release for all of those that have had these types of experiences.
Okay. What do you think, guys? I'm looking at the comments here in SOR Space Travelers. Unfortunately, I can't see the chat room, so if James is around, he can put the other chat room, he can tell us.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say we could do that.
It would be very quick and simple.
Okay.
To me, I've learned that easy is the best. It keeps the trauma resonance from being activated, and that is why I don't always name what is going on, because that creates a cording into the morphic field of what everybody thinks it is. You know, if you hear the big word cancer, you automatically cord into the morphic field of cancer.
Right.
Right. If you're in a doctor's office and that's what they tell you.
Right.
So to me, the best thing is not get corded into any field or allow any field to have any power over you in any diagnostic situation.
Okay.
So with me, when do you want to do this, right now?
Yeah, let's do it now.
Okay, I just make it up as I go.
Okay.
That's the best thing with that. It's like, okay, I just asked for my team to come in and help me with the right words. And I will take it through the format of regeneration work. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, and so you just take a couple of breaths and go into your heart. It's been a long time since I've done this, just so you know.
Okay.
And I go into the state of, and I will say the words in my, as in I, and everybody can just think themselves as I. So, I am in spirit. I and the Creator are one. This healing blesses all of creation. I go into the past. My soul knows when. I go into the past related to the very first time I was taken against my will and had experimental procedures done to me. Within this past space, I will ask this moment to continue on through any other time that there is a resonance of any type that has ever gone on in my life. So now I go to the moment before I was ever taken against my will. And I notice how I feel. I notice what my DNA is. I noticed what my emotional qualities are. I notice my breath. I notice my safety. I notice how I feel. And I take this time, I take this energy of me at this moment, and I bypass all that ever happened that was not of my asking. I bring all of me forward into present time, and I allow this energy now to come into resonance with who I am now on this day in this exact moment. And I allow this to enter into my body, mind, spirit, and soul to activate the real, true me, the purity of the DNA, the purity of my being, and all of the cells of who I really am, to be activated within me at this moment, to balance and harmonize. And this I do with the grace of the Creator at this exact moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, isn't that easy?
Yeah.
And I ask that be carried on to whomever listens to this recording.
So if you're listening, and many of our listeners will be listening tomorrow and throughout the week, will work for you too. Wow.
I ask this be encoded into this moment for anyone who listens to it to receive what it is appropriate for them to receive.
Wow, I can feel that moving. I can feel energy moving down there in that area. Wow. Whew.
It is phenomenal. For it to be that simple, it's phenomenal.
Oh. So you will work with experiencers, you'll work with abductees, with this kind of healing work. Have you found any other types of healing work to be particularly successful with experiencers and abductees?
I usually work with whatever shows up at the moment. Sometimes within a session, I'll go through several different things that I know, and sometimes things show up that I don't know, and I just go with it. If I have my ET team show up and say, this would be better, and they just guide me through whatever I need to do.
Right. So it's shamanic, it's healing in the moment, it's whatever works for the person. It is hard to explain that to people because, I've been doing Reiki for a long time, for over 25 years, and it's interesting that when you try to explain it, well, it really depends on what you need. But that's really how it is. It is. What happens that you need, and it doesn't really matter if I know what I'm doing or not, as long as I'm present. So
exactly. There was one time. Let me just give you this one example. I had one person laying on my table one time, and I had no idea what we were going to be doing. And all of a sudden, it was like my table just doubled in width. A vortex opened above the room, and beings came in. And she was okay with all this. It was like they just took her all apart and had things separated all over the table. Of course, not in the physical, but I could see it in this other realm. And she could feel it in the other realm.
Yeah.
And they had me just hold space at her head or at her feet and run energy that, whatever it was, I have no idea. And then there was a time when they just had me sit over and watch. And then we put her all back together, and it was amazing.
Wow. A lot of experiencers go through a time period, or some experiencers will talk about this. I don't know how many it is versus the whole, and I don't want to put that out there that it's a bunch if it's not. But they'll have time periods of immune dysfunction, or headaches, or a chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia type of things. And
absolutely, yes.
What's your take on that? What have you found is most helpful as a person looking at that, or as a healer looking at that?
Well, since I've been through it myself, I have been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. I have not been diagnosed with fibromyalgia just because I already know it's there. What I have found is that I just have to stay on top of it. I have to stay on top of keeping my immune system clear and clean. I think part of it is that with the ET DNA that we carry, we are more susceptible to some of the different malfunctions that go on because of the emotion that triggers these things. I never thought of it that before. That just kind of came out of my mouth. But the emotional trauma that we feel around us from all these people, because most everyone I know that's a starseed are pretty sensitive. And we just notice when things aren't right or when people are being hurt, and we often take upon ourselves their stuff. And we shouldn't, but we do because that's who we are. And it affects our immune systems. So I'm constantly muscle checking, well, not constantly, but daily, muscle checking my own supplements to see what ones I need to take today. I have also found that one brand will work great for a while, and then I have to change to another brand.
Mm-hmm.
Or I may need B12 this week and maybe something else next week. It's really, really something we just have to stay on top of. But I think our emotional trauma will lower our vibrational field or frequencies to where we're more susceptible to stuff.
Yeah.
Along with the chemtrails and along with the GMOs and all that stuff too.
Right. And you have a neat thing on your website. If you go on your website, say the name again because it's so long.
It's alchemyuniversaltherapies.com.
So when I went on and I pressed on the thing to get the, at the bottom there's a red bar, and it's an activation for abundance, I believe. But I pressed on it and I got the GMO clearing. So I guess I got what I needed. And it may work the same for some other people, but I went, well, that wasn't what I expected, but that's really cool. If you go to her website, go down to the bar on the abundance activation, press on it, because you'll either get abundance activation or you'll get what I got, which was the GMO clearing. And I thought about that, and I said, yeah, that's pretty good for me. That's probably what I need, given where I am right now with my health. And
that's really interesting. I did not know my website was malfunctioning like that.
It was either malfunctioning or it was saying no, not for her. She's already good, because I already do Abraham Hicks vortex work. I've got like 26 pages of vortex proclamations and affirmations that I do, not daily, but I try to do. Mm-hmm. At least once a week minimum. And so, but when I got to the GMO stuff, I was like, wow, this is really good. I liked it very much. So I'm going to tell people to go there, because if you're worried about food, or you're worried about toxins in food and genetic engineering, there are healings on those pages that will help you with that issue. And but yes, you do that. Now, what's your take on chemtrails? I don't tend to talk to a lot of people about chemtrails because my story is I used to work for the Department of Environmental Protection in Massachusetts when I was going through researching my experiences, and everybody knew that the Watertown Armory was doing testing on the Boston population when they would put out a barge and they would shoot up canisters of viruses. And we'd see the barge. Yeah, we'd see the barge, and we all knew what the barge was. And we'd go, all right, everybody get ready, because we're all going to be sick, And then we would, sorry, I'm laughing, because then what would happen is I was the commissioner's receptionist / assistant secretary. What would happen is people would call in talking about chemtrails in 1990, 1991, and I'd be like, honey, don't even let me tell you about the barge. I was like, I'm not worried about the chemtrails. I'm worried about the barge. Because why? Because we have the water-ground testing, the Watertown Armory testing facility, that's what they did. So what's your take on chemtrails, given the story on the barge? And, what do you think's going on?
That's a great question. My opinion is it's just, I think it's testing. I think it's, I don't even know all the words to use for that. When you started talking about it, it reminded me of when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I grew up in the San Luis Valley.
Oh, wow.
Of Colorado. Right. The San Luis Valley, the ET hotspot of the world.
Right.
And right south of us, over the mountains, was Los Alamos, where they were doing all their testing with the atomic bomb.
Right.
And that would blow up into our valley and contaminate all of us there.
Yeah.
I remember my dad didn't always tell me, but I would eventually see the dead two-headed calves that were aborted from the cows.
Right.
So then the snakes and, it was just, that was messing with all of us. And I really think that was part of the reason for the cattle mutilations that were going on in the valley, too, was still testing on what the atomic bomb did.
Yeah, a friend of mine who was in the Defense Intelligence Agency, he said that he said that is so typical for what the government would do, that they would go to the outskirts. They would go to where they thought the fallout was happening, and they would actually do like a black op where they would have somebody go down and harvest organs for testing. And it doesn't mean the aliens aren't doing it too, but he said, no, with all the radioactive stuff in that area, San Luis Valley would definitely be within the realm of, both windfall from the nuclear testing in Nevada coming across Utah. Yeah, and then also Los Alamos. And, it's a convergence area in the San Luis Valley. It's where all the airstream is going to go up and over the western slope and dump down into the Central Valley and drop things there.
Right.
So
that was also a reason that I thought that I had some autoimmune dysfunction too.
Right. Huh. Well, I was really stressed out, and I lived in Boston, and we had the Watertown Armory. So
yeah, so they've been doing it all over for all of us, huh?
I mean, and Michigan, we had the little town I grew up in. I think there were a lot of experiencers, a lot of abductees, but we had a chemical plant that created a chemical that was often released that has never been tested. For whatever reason, they won't test the health effects on humans, and it's called MBOCA. And this plant was working for the government, for the DOD, making suits, bioweapon suits. So the suits that the soldiers would wear were made at this plant. I don't know if they were tested at this plant, but when I go back there, I feel like this energetic shutdown of the area, like there are these corridors or grid lines set up, and that everybody is controlled within these heavy, heavy grid lines. And I also noticed that there was a tremendous amount of schizophrenia. I went to the library I'd always gone to as a kid, and there were schizophrenics out on the street and schizophrenics in the library. And I was like, this is a town of 20,000 people. Why are there so many schizophrenics? And it was just that, and it just kept coming back to me, control, government influence, testing that they don't want people to know about, aliens, this whole sort of wonky convergence. Like San Luis Valley or like Utah, like people I know have lived near Dugway, proving grounds in Utah and places that people don't go. There's this heavy control feeling. But chemtrails, maybe they're in that group, in that constellation.
I think that they are spreading various... I don't think they're spreading the exact same thing in each area. I don't think whatever's going on in, say, the East Coast is getting the same dumped on them as what they do on the West Coast or even us here in the mountains.
Yeah.
But I do think it's definitely harmful. It's really, I think, taxing to the lungs and the immune system. And I don't understand the reason behind it at all, except mass population control.
Yeah. Or
and
just
I could be way off. I don't know.
I hate to say it, the 1%ers just making sure the 1%ers still have money. Sorry, guys, but I know people here who run gambling addiction treatment programs, but they also own the casinos.
Ah.
Think about that for a minute. You own and build casinos, but then you have gambling addiction treatment programs. So you're getting the money coming and you're getting the money going. It's like,
oh my gosh, yeah. Holy cow! But they can probably write off the program. The addiction program.
Yeah, they write it off and they make money at the same time.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's.
Oh, what a game we live in!
What a strange thing that we have going on here. All right, well, let's get positive again. So, so do we think that what we did with the group clearing worked on my issue?
Yes.
Yay!
How does it feel?
It feels like blue white light and tingly.
Looks better.
And I went back to a time, I know that I had experiences before this, but I went back to 3 or 4 when I was a very outgoing kid, and I used to go around to all my neighbors and interview them. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Why do you like that? So that's my essential personality. Like, I came here to ask people questions about what they're doing and why. Maybe it's research. Maybe I'm just an alien researcher, the sociological researcher. I don't know, but I always liked being that way. So I went back to that time, and I always felt very free and unlimited. I lived in a place where we didn't have fences in our neighborhood, and I never got in trouble for going to see the different moms who were home and, hanging out with them for a few minutes every day and asking them questions. And so, I went back to then, and that would have been just before trauma that may have closed me down, not feeling so free. So that was interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very, very good. Great time to go to.
Yeah.
What I found out the other day, I woke up kind of half asleep, half awake, and remembered going on a ship at 4 years old. And I asked why on the world I was on a ship at 4. And I remembered seeing the mantis beings teaching, and I was told that is when they started the interdimensional training with me.
That makes sense.
So now it's easy and natural, and I don't even realize I'm doing it half the time. And that makes this type of healing modality easy.
Right. It's something that you already knew about, you were already trained in, and then in human life, when other people brought it forward to you, you were like, oh, yeah, right. And
exactly.
I find that too. Have you ever found with experiencers that sometimes they reject their alienness and that causes physical issues?
Yes. Yes. In fact, right now, I'm, along with another lady, we're running a Northern Colorado contactee group. And it's interesting, some of the people that show up that haven't had the trauma from abductions, and then there's some that show up that have had horrible traumas all their life. It's just interesting to see the differences that show up.
Yeah.
There's some that are afraid. Some of them are afraid to even talk to those that have the traumas, because it starts triggering their memories.
Yeah.
it's just so interesting how people have all had different experiences.
Yeah.
And how we remember them.
Yeah. It is, and how we process differently. I've had some clients who I don't perceive to be abductees, but they have the DNA,
yes.
and for whatever reason, all of a sudden their bodies will just start to go crazy. Like they'll have MS symptoms, and then they'll have diabetes symptoms, and they'll have some other symptoms, and then another symptom over here, and they'll start to lose their vision. And it'll just keep, like a rolling wave, just
Are you finding any of these related to their past life or ancestral lives?
The main thing I've noticed about the ones where it's really extreme, where it's a bunch of odd symptoms, is that they have alien past lives, that they have abilities as healers, and that they are rejecting information that's coming to them from their alien past lives or their alien creator being. Like if you were to allow your whole creator being to exist within your body, and then you looked at parts of it, and parts of it were mantis, and parts of it were something else, and parts of it were other things, and you said, well, I'm not that, I'm human. It's like they go, no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden there'll be a wave of odd physical symptoms. Have you seen that?
I hadn't quite put two and two together on that one.
Okay. Yeah, let's just ask each other questions.
Yeah. Have you come across those that have been through the electric wars?
Now, which wars are those? I've been through the wars that were like Martian, and I had all sorts of issues from those. I had a client that came to me that she was having some really strange issues going on. I can't even remember them now. But as I looked at her and we started talking, we went to a time when she was actually on a nice planet doing just normal work, but she got caught in the crossfire of the electric wars. They called them electric wars, but they had these weapons that were so, they were just, I don't even know what you'd call them except electric, because it looked like blue. Phase cannons, blue phase cannons.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
And whenever it would hit her, and what I saw when it hit her, it was like the body started decomposing so fast that the soul and the spirit could hardly get out. And that really showed me that there is a soul and a spirit. But one of them was so fried, and one of them looked fractured. And then another ship came along, beamed them up, and put them into healing containments, but they did not know how to heal the emotional aspect of it.
Just like the shock. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like horrific PTSD was showing up in this person's life, and that's where we traced it back to.
I had a talk with a woman who's also an experiencer who is dealing with the interdimensional openings that were created by the electric wars. And she's in Kauai, and she's finding pieces of ships and pieces of technology that are coming through these inadvertently opened portals. And she does a lot of work with people who have been part of this war. The only thing that I remembered was a war that I was in, and I was an alien. And the issue was my mother was my commanding officer, and I really thought that I really disagreed with the command. Was basically, y'all are going on a suicide mission, and I was like, no, I really don't want to go on a suicide mission. Why don't we do this instead? And nobody was listening. So I had this whole issue about people not listening or not hearing me. And I'm not sure if those were the electric wars or if those were some other kind of war. But it was really interesting seeing my mother as an alien. It was like,
do you know what species at that time?
No, I just know that we were in a Red Rock area underground, and we were tall, we were light gray, and we had very big eyes, but we were very tall, probably 6.5, 7 foot, easily.
Wow.
Aliens.
That's awesome.
So, and it was just enough. That was just enough for me to say, oh, that's why I'm so frustrated. That's why. That's what's going on.
Let's clear that emotional aspect of that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Get that emotion. Yeah. Let's just, even if you go into the emotion code, we'll clear it. Mm-hmm. And as far as ancestral, because this is really tricky ancestral stuff as well as past life stuff, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And what would you call it? Not being listened to. What emotion would you connect to not being listened to with that?
Oh, it's extreme frustration, and it almost leads to rage in me.
And not good enough?
And not good enough. Yeah.
Unworthy?
Undeserving, unworthy, worthless, frustrated.
Betrayed. Oh, I'm feeling even betrayed.
Yes, betrayed. Betrayed especially because that was a suicide mission. I mean, right after
Why would a mother send their child on a suicide mission?
Exactly. What... You just want to kill me. And that was, my mom has now passed away, but that was a lot of our issue, was that she tried to kill me in this life, and I felt that she kept trying to kill me, and it was like, wow, yeah, that's been going on for a while. But sending me on a suicide mission with a bunch of other people, yeah, great, thanks, Mom. So
as you're talking, I'm doing some clearing on that, but And I don't even know what I'm doing with it. It's just more like light code work, like reaching into other dimensions and other places to bring all this together. Dr. Bartlett just called it parts of matrix energetics, but I've learned, no, it's light code work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I can feel that in the small of my back. So that's, and that's the same general area. But it feels good. Thank you.
Yeah, like getting stabbed in your heart, man.
Yeah.
Backstabbed in your heart. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty interesting. I wonder what we were going to be doing tonight.
I know. I'm getting all sorts of good stuff. I think what we should do is tell people that if you want to work with Patricia Vance Forbes or Pat, how can they reach you?
Well, my website is Pat, 4, letter B as in boy, S as in Sam, at msn.com. Now, I didn't come up with that. That's what my kids came up with when they were in high school for all of our email names. Was Pat, 4BS, at msn.com. Okay. And my office number is 970-566-2402. And my website would be alchemyuniversaltherapies.com. And this fall, I'm hoping to be teaching the regeneration work again. I haven't taught it for about 4 years, but I keep getting nudged that I need to do that.
That's
how you find me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Patricia Vance Forbes. You can Google her. Her website comes up as the Cosmic Cowgirl. She's riding a dragon. We thank you so much. I thank you so much for your healing work tonight and working on me. And we're going to move on. James Tyson is coming up with a great show next. Keep listening, Spaced Out Radio Weekend.
Hi there. This is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on 2 mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
It's time to go live on Spaced Out Weekend.
13, please. Oh, hi, Kevin. Oh, is that the time? Kevin, my friend, don't you find that watch just a little bit loud? Well, I certainly hope our buddy Bumblefoot is playing when we get there. Oh, you stinky big bundle of hair. I said Bumblefoot, not Bigfoot. Oh, it's going to be a long night.
It's time to head to the 13th floor of the old log cabin for Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson. You can tweet James at James Tyson SOR. You can find him on Instagram, Spaced Out Weekend, as well as on Facebook. On YouTube, our channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can check out our website, spacedoutradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And now, perched high in his captain's chair, way above the clouds, Here's James Tyson.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Weekend. Hi, hello. I'm your host, James Tyson, and it's good to have you along for this fabulous ride. And up here high up in the mountains in my little log cabin on the 13th floor of the Spaced Out Radio Network. Oh, it's beautiful. I can see for a mile here. But we're having a great time here on the left coast. It is the Canadian lower left coast, or what we in the Pacific Northwest like to call Cascadia. Now, let's take some time, and I know Elizabeth did this in the first hour, but we're going to take some time to welcome everybody listening at WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Newnan, Georgia, and all of the Metro Atlanta area, those on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker and the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and High Plains Talk Radio, and a whole bunch of other little ones, but which we'll get to in the next hour, because you know how much time this takes up. And then again, if you are listening to us, I'd like to thank you for listening to us on whatever method you are. So why do I have to actually name all this stuff? Okay, I don't know. You can check me out on Twitter, Spaced Out Weekend. Give my Facebook a page. James, let's see, what is my Facebook? Oh, it's Spaced Out Weekend, James Tyson. You can go to our main Spaced Out Radio Facebook page. Come over to Instagram at Spaced Out Weekend. Bounce around all over the place. And if you are on spacedoutradio.com, bounce over and go to the patreon.com, as Dave has pointed out, patreon.com, and we have some cool offers for our listeners out there. So check those out. And for those of you on Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Live, and Stitcher, welcome. You can always get us on iTunes, and tomorrow on YouTube. That's it for tonight, everybody. Thanks for coming out. There's a lot of stuff I've got to fill in here, but tonight, here in the great north of everything, above the 49th parallel, we welcome a lovely young woman from the other side of the planet. Well, the other side of my country, anyway. Michelle Desrochers. Now, it's Desrochers, is it not, Michelle? She is here to chat about her experiences in the paranormal and those bumps in the night that most people run from. She is the co-director, co-owner of Canada's Most Haunted and Burlington Ghost Walks. She is very active in the media and travels around working in Canada and the U.S. and abroad on any occasion to paranormal research. You may have seen her on Entertainment Tonight Canada, Much Music, Kenny vs. Spenny, Bio Channel, Ghostly Encounters, Creepy Canada, Haunted Casefiles, Paranormal Survival, seasons 2 and 3. So obviously she did well to survive. She has been up here in Canada in Toronto Life magazine, to mention a few. She is also a collector of oddities. Anything unusual. Michelle has a nice collection of funeral items, human skulls, skeletons, church pieces, mourning pieces, taxidermy, and her list goes on. So, please, welcome to Spaced Out Weekend, a bit of a nutbar herself. Michelle, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fine. Well, you have human skulls?
I do. I have a large collection of different items that are a little bit obscure, and definitely human skulls, yes.
Do you have a license for those?
Actually, they're all documented. They're all very, very old. My oldest one is 600 years old.
Oh, okay.
And it comes from Europe, and from England. But, yeah, everything has to be documented.
Yes.
So, definitely.
The Mountie in me came out and said, "All right, lady, pull the hearse over."
I have no North American skulls. Actually, they're all European, and they are definitely all documented.
Sweet. You've been doing this for what, 14, 15 years now?
Yes. Yes.
What got you into this?
Well, I mean, I've been intuitive, my entire life. I've had mediumship abilities from the time I was a child, and I've always been able to see dead people, and quite comfortably. I was never alerted or alarmed by it, rather. And I ended up throughout, my teen years and puberty age, having something really malevolent come into my life. And back then, of course, we didn't have computers. So I think I'm kind of showing my age a little bit, but we did not have computers. So it was doing things the old-fashioned way by going to the library and learning, and was able to basically get a handle on my own haunting, so to speak. And I don't know, it's just something that I seem to have a knack for. So I ended up, once I got married, I had children. My children grew up, and I thought, you know what? Now I think I could feel comfortable in getting involved, in the paranormal. I didn't like the mix of the paranormal and kids and the family, even though, my kids were seers as well. They could see and feel and hear. But I ended up, we have the Burlington Ghost Walks here, so I ended up going on a tour one time and meeting my now business partner, Patrick Ross, and he founded Burlington Ghost Walks in 2001. And from that point on, I kind of got into half of the company, and we founded Canada's Most Haunted, which is the research company and our media company. And now the rest is history. Here I am.
Yeah, where is Burlington? Now, we go out to 160 countries around the world, and they're probably looking out their window wondering where Burlington is.
Burlington, Ontario, is in southern Ontario. It's probably about a half hour to 40 minutes east of Toronto. Everybody knows Toronto. And I would say probably about 45 minutes north of the American border going into New York State.
Okay,
so we're pretty south. We're right on Lake Ontario, literally.
So southeast of Toronto, then?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
About a half hour southeast of Toronto. And I could literally see Lake Ontario from here. So.
Well, if our listener goes to a map or imagines that area and takes Burlington completely out of the picture, that land itself goes back to beyond the War of 1812, the 1700s, the Revolutionary War, all the huge First Nations wars. So you've got some stuff happening there.
We have a lot of stuff happening here. We have so many haunted locations on our tour. We have to, we try to juggle them around. Our tours would be like 4 hours long. They're already 2, but we juggle the different locations around, probably every year, every other year. We add, remove, things of that nature. And we're very active in the War of 1812. I mean, anything around the Great Lakes, of course, were, and there's a lot of history here. Even though Burlington never saw war, our founding father, which was Joseph Brant, Tyandaga, which was part of the Six Nations, was very instrumental in bringing his people in, basically to help the Crown of England, and was awarded 3,000 acres in payment for this. And, of course, his son John Brant went on to help fight in 1812. We never saw battle, but we did have a camp here in Burlington in one of our parks, which was kind of a halfway point. So foot soldiers coming in from Toronto, let's say, would come in and rest up here as they were working their way over to Hamilton and down to Niagara on the Lake, where the forts were, Niagara Falls. And so it's a lot of history. I love history, so it's great to be a part of it.
Very cool. And for our American friends, Joseph Brant was a Mohawk military, and he was a political leader back in the day.
Correct.
Yeah, he was, I think he passed away when he was about 50 some years old, but during the American Revolution, he was associated with Great Britain at the time. And
yeah,
it was, and who was his son?
He
would have
spent
been
time in England, actually. Yeah.
I think he met George Washington and King George III and a few other ones. He was a huge Iroquois. He's born into like the hierarchy, like the of the Iroquois League, and he's also educated and had connections to British officers. So he not only mixed his First Nations Mohawk war or battle strategy.
Strategy.
Exactly.
3 times now.
Yeah. And he could probably speak 3 or 4 languages. This is my only one, and it keeps falling out. But he could mix that with the British were teaching him, and then he would look what they were doing and throw it right out, because they all stood up in red outfits and so, halt, or I'll yell, halt again, you cad. Meanwhile,
kudos to you. Good
Joseph
history.
would hide in the back. It is kind of cool. That place is cool. That is a wonderful place, right down into Michigan. All through that area, New York, Michigan, they had some. Like I say, you could scrape those cities that exist right now away, and imagine the civilization that was there from the 1600s to late 1700s. It would be, well, probably the buildings are still there. You're lucky. Our oldest buildings on the West Coast are 1800s.
Well, if you go down into the town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, which of course has been named, the most haunted town in Canada, there are a couple of buildings left because the American people burned down the whole town of Niagara-on-the-Lake, but were kind enough to leave us a couple of buildings, like the old Angel Inn, which was, had all the stables for the horses, and it was kind of the local watering hole, and we're kind of grateful because it still is, and we love it.
We're Canadian. You leave us the pub, we're good.
You leave us the pub?
Burn down everything. We need the pub.
We love you for it.
Yeah. And we deserved it. We burnt down their White House. So it was kind of
we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is true.
Yeah. And then they made it out of stone. And we huffed and we puffed. So Niagara-on-the-Lake is Canada's most haunted? Is that because they called it that?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's been nicknamed. I don't know who came up with the nickname, but it's actually been named the most haunted town in Canada. It's a beautiful town. But it's very, very haunted. There are a couple of ghost tours that run out of there, and a lot of really interesting stories. Of course, the Old Angel Inn is one of them, and of course, we do the Shaw Festival down there, and they have 2 or 3 theaters at their disposal, and they're all haunted. Too many places in the town that are not haunted. The forts are there, of course. You have Fort George, Fort Mississauga, and right across the river from that, you've got Fort Niagara on the U.S. side, all haunted.
Amazing. We have Victoria on this side, which I always say is the most haunted city, because it's right on the tip of an island with the tides going around it, up just a little bit north of Washington State there, the peninsula, and that energy caused from that tide. For the last 3,000 years, First Nations have been going there to speak to their dead, because literally you could see them because of the energy moving. Wow. They don't have to draw energy from anything.
Here's a question for you, because from one researcher to another, there's a lot of theories going on. I've been fortunate enough to work with, some amazing mediums worldwide. And a lot of them seem to have this theory because, there's this upswing of sightings and experiences. I tend to chalk it up as, social media and internet, it brings the world together. And we're in a time right now where it's okay to talk about, things like ghosts. When I was growing up, it's like, that's a family secret. Don't talk about the fact that you can see dead people. Now it's just so everybody's talking about it. But a lot of the mediums have theories that the veil has actually collapsed. So there is nothing really separating our dimensions, so to speak.
Now, I've been for the last couple of years, I've been talking to mediums from all over the world, really. And it's, in my experience, and we'll call it an awakening, happened in 2012. And I would tell people that psychics and they'd kind of raise an eyebrow and kind of go, see? And I was like, what, see what? What do you mean? And
I want to see.
They said it's going to come, but you don't, you don't want to do it right now because it'd freak me out. I said, good. Don't want to see too much. But mine was late November, early December, and they with the cosmic they, the people I talk to say the veil thins between 3 a.m. and 4:30 a.m.
Yeah.
In no matter what time zone you're in. That's the time. That's why people who have a little bit of connection to this kind of stuff wake up. Some people wake up and actually see that line of things out the door, things being spirits that followed you around all day trying to get your attention. And during that time when the veil thins, they actually can get your attention and you wake up. But if you, like I say, are extremely sensitive, you wake up, you'll see them. So if you block it, you do your meditations to block and keep them out of the room, you'll sleep right through. They also say that the veil thins at the end of October, early November every year. And then in 2012, it thinned and didn't thicken up again. It didn't completely collapse yet, but it's thin enough to where anybody with a tape recorder can stand in the middle of a field and eventually get a voice on it.
Yeah, I know as a medium myself, I find that things have definitely been busier, a little bit louder, shall we say, with things coming in. And I know on our tours, our spirits are a lot more active. And with that being said, you start to explore all the different theories, and a lot of people are leaning to the fact that something. I mean, we go through these huge energy shifts. And it's almost like something shifted, and it didn't, like you say, it just didn't shift back.
Well, we had two earthquakes here on this side of the coast. Okay, I'm sorry, I've just bounced out. I've got to turn off the chat room. I've got people asking me questions that aren't really questions in there. I know, distracting. I only have one brain cell, and unfortunately, that was tequila resulted as a kid.
Nice.
We had two earthquakes off here in 2012. And one was at the end of October. I think it was October 27th. And it was up north on the Pacific, just south of Alaska. And it was about a 6-point whatever earthquake. And a week or so later, there was one about 100 miles straight off the coast of British Columbia. And it was about a 7.7. Again, no tsunamis or anything like that. They were good-sized earthquakes. But there was a paranormal group that I was involved with. And this paranormal group would get maybe one call a month from Joe Sixpack, who says there's something in my house that's not a squirrel in my attic. Or maybe there is a squirrel in my attic. And after those two earthquakes, and into December of 2012, they were getting 2 calls a week. So that's how drastically things had changed, from 1 call a month to 2 calls a week, that people were now seeing things. And it hasn't stopped. And unfortunately, it's caused everybody, thanks to some wedding DJ who took a documentary course in Las Vegas, and his show, everybody wants a television show now. And
of course,
because they can talk to these things and see these things, and they're running around out there, and they think it's their big break. So it's really polluted what you and I know as paranormal investigation, or actually working for somebody.
Yeah, it's difficult, with social media. I love to see like-minded people get together and do things. I love to see so many groups forming. Unfortunately, sometimes, it's not just a matter, I don't think a lot of people realize it's not just a matter of going into somebody's home with a camera and a tape recorder and, so on and so forth, because you see it on television. It's a matter of, you have to realize there's people behind this. For me, I've done a lot of media. I mean, I've done a lot of media of all sorts. And, I've turned down a lot of media. I've turned down my own TV series twice because it just, it was put to me, and I kind of sat there and went, okay, that's just dumb. I'm not doing that. And I'm not afraid to say I don't have all the answers. I'm not afraid to say I got nothing. And with that said, when I take on a case, like I actually have a year's waiting list, and every time someone sees me on a show, I get flooded with more emails, and I pride myself at answering my own emails, and I do really try hard to get to everybody, and sometimes it takes me a really long time, but I try to take time aside every month to answer a bunch of questions. I get probably 50 to 60 private messages a day, not counting emails, and I probably get 5 to 6 or even 700 notifications a day with comments and questions, and so it gets a little bit overwhelming. But when it comes to investigations, I even started dabbling a little bit in a counseling course, just online, nothing major, but it wasn't to get myself a degree to become any kind of counselor. It was just to educate myself on how to properly communicate with people and read body language and things like that. Because when you're going into somebody's home, I've always looked at it as a privilege. And like I have a bit of a ladder as to stepping process as to what's most important. And you look at my website, you'll notice there's never any case files or anything like that. I mean, I was abiding by privacy long before it was even mandatory. And you might see the odd public thing on there, maybe because you have a business that wants to be promoted for being haunted, so they can do tours or whatever, things like that. But to me, it's about the people. It's about the people, keeping that private. It's about the location, keeping that private. It's about the respect of those people, the respect of the family, the respect of the spirit people even. If you can do all of that, and come out with evidence at the end of it all, good for you. Then you've set out to do what you set out to do. But it's not just about going in there and taking pictures and doing voice recordings. It's about the people, and it's about educating the people as well. I don't go in there and pretend to wave a magic wand. I work with a lot of different mediums. I have an arsenal of amazing equipment. And at the end of the day, I ask people, what is it you want to do? Do you want to just get to know who your spirits are? Or, are you being tormented? And do you need this taken care of? And if it's, no, I have a nice spirit in the house, I just want to get familiar with them, I will always put them off to another really a reputable group in their area. Malevolent hauntings, I get that we need to get evidence and we need to get in there and communicate with certain things. But you know what? You get to go home, and when you're dealing with a situation and you're in there trying to communicate with something that the family does not want to communicate with, and then you get to go home and you have this malevolent energy saying, well, you wanted to talk to me 15 minutes ago. I'm not just going to stop right now because you don't want to talk now. Like, you are leaving people behind. And you better leave them behind with education and making them feel like they are not alone, because that's not fair. I don't give a rat's behind about getting the evidence first. I care about the people. That's who I'm there for. I have the privilege of being in there to help them. And that is above and foremost the most important thing.
Yeah.
In any investigation. And people lose sight of that. They think, you know what, it's a privilege for you to have me in here to help you. I'm going to help you, I'm going to get this evidence. No, it's the other way around. You be privileged that you're being invited in there and help them do your job.
Yeah, it's one of those things too. Is people get out there and they want to, poke at these spirits that have passed.
Sure.
Let's go to an old asylum. They were picked on when they were alive. Let's pick on them when they're dead. Have a few beer and go home. High five. My paranormal group really ticks off all the other ones because we go in and we'll cross over what we can. And it really ticks the other ones off.
Absolutely. Because you know what? It's a matter of, first of all, you are trying to help the family, but you're trying to help. Now, if you're dealing with a human spirit, absolutely. See, my area of research is more malevolent energies, and they not so easy to cross over. I have crossed over spirits, And it's a very rewarding feeling to do that, to reunite them with their families that are waiting, and to help the people, the living, in dealing with it. I mean, I've worked with people helping them just to coexist with their spirits. There's definitely ways to do it. And I mean, to come in with something malevolent, though, not so easy to cross over. And people need to be, I always say, acknowledgement is empowerment, and educating people and changing the way they think. I've seen people clear their own houses simply by turning them into, let's say, warriors instead of victims, and empowering them and showing them, no, someone's got your back now. And then believe me, when I take a case, my phone is on 24/7. And I've had calls in the middle of the night when things are going down at a location. If you're close enough, I'll show up in the middle of the night. If you're not, I'll stay on the phone with you, and I'll be that cheerleader in the back that you need, at that time. But usually, when I'm done with a case or a family, they're educated. They can clear their own places by the time, like, they've learned enough that they can take back their lives, and they're never victimized. Very seldomly are they victimized twice.
Yeah.
Because they recognize the signs. They know what to do.
They'll recognize the signs, and they'll also realize that they, as being living people, are stronger than the other things.
Exactly.
And we've got a lot of backup. We can call our guides and everybody else in.
No, exactly. And it's teaching them how to do the same thing, So I think a lot of researchers now, I mean, I guess it separates the good ones from the not so good ones, and it's unfortunate. But, I think that people lose sight of the fact that there are people attached to some of these cases, on some of these locations. And they really lose sight of the fact that they get to go home, and they go in there and challenging and this and that. And it's like, it's not the way to do things. I have been courteous 9 times out of 10, and I get amazing voice recordings and amazing things happen. Because even with malevolent things, a lot of times, there were people too. So it's a matter of be courteous. There's no reason to start challenging things and belittling things. And it's amazing the results you can get just by being courteous.
Yeah.
Seriously. At least from my standpoint and my team's standpoint.
Yeah, we've been at places, like you said, where another team has gone in and basically poked the bear, high-fived, and left, and the family's still there. And now that little thing that they kind of saw out of the corner of their eye is screaming, yelling, throwing stuff around, and all ramped up. And it takes a while for that to calm down. So that's
you know what? A lot of times, a good spirit can get really frustrated too. If that spirit doesn't know he's passed, and you're walking into the room every day, and that spirit's saying good morning, and you don't acknowledge them, and you sit down in their favorite chair, or after a while, they start to get frustrated, and it's like, come on, I'm here. And it's just making people aware. And you come in with one of your mediums, for example, and your medium says, well, Fred here, says good morning every time you come into this area. And do you know that when Fred was alive, this was his space? Between 2 and 3, he used to sit here every day, and he just read a book, and he just wanted some quiet time. Do you think maybe you can give Fred, if you can't cross Fred over, then can you coexist with Fred and leave the room alone between 2 and 3 every day and say good morning when you walk in? A lot of times it's a matter of explaining to the spirit, okay, not everybody can hear you or see you. It's not a matter of being disrespectful. It's a matter of we just can't.
Yeah.
And then Fred's like, oh, I'm dead. Oh, it really is that simple sometimes.
Yeah. And it was one of the questions.
Mediums could tell you the same.
One of the questions I learned at the beginning, never to ask your first question. So, do you know you're dead? Because that's a little bit awkward sometimes when they don't, and they're like, "What? I didn't know that." Do you mean? Who are you? And get out of my kitchen. What was the?
I had an experience when I was in Egypt once, and I came up. I was in the Great Pyramid of Giza, and I ended up down in the Queen's Chamber because I had, basically the guides just let me in. It wasn't super busy in there, and a good tip. And I was like, oh, we'll give you the whole chamber, the whole pyramid for an hour. I'm like, perfect. And I came up, and there was a spirit man there. And I mean, I climbed. I was on my belly, way down. And I come up, and there was a spirit man just basically looking at me. And there's no language barrier, but he kept staring at me. And I'm going, what's the last thing you remember? And he just sort of looked at me, and I'm speaking more like this, thinking it telepathically. And he looked, and he kind of showed the motion that he fell down. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that's interesting. And I said, so you're dead? And he goes, no, you're dead. Literally, just like that. And I went, pretty sure it's you. He just looked at me, and he went, no. I said, well, can you tell how I'm dressed? We're in a different time. And he goes, no, you're dead. And then I thought about it, like, frig. Maybe I am. Maybe we got this all backwards. I said, all right, it's me. I just turned around, climbed back up, and went back out of the building and went, oh, all right.
Yeah,
I've been told.
maybe this is the other side.
Right? It left me thinking. He was pretty adamant. I'm like, I'm not going to argue. Maybe it is. Until we get there, you don't know.
You don't know. Maybe you were dressed like an angel to him. You're all dressed fancy in your flip-flops and shorts, and he totally threw them off.
All sweaty and full of dirt because I was crawling on my belly down a long shaft, maybe. I don't know. But it was interesting. It definitely put things in perspective, at least from his point. And I left there thinking, it was a very cool experience nonetheless,
That would have been actually pretty spooky for me. First of all, I don't crawl down shafts.
No.
Especially in a country where there are snakes that could have taken my eye out, I could bump a rock and then open one side of the pyramid up by accident, fall in, then me and him would be walking around going, yeah, I fell too. I don't know.
It's all you. You're
that's kind of freaky.
Guys.
But
you know what? I thought I'm only going to be here probably one time. I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm just going to do it. Never said I was a sharp pistol in the box. I always say I'm either really fearless or just a real meathead. So I don't know.
You asked him what. If I had questions to ask the genie, what was the last thing you remember? Probably wouldn't be it. It would be, do you know where there's some gold that no one found yet?
I know. Where's the real burial chamber?
Yes. Who really made
poor guy
this
got
thing?
Locked in there because he knew.
Yeah.
How many of the when you buried a pharaoh? How many of them were killed right afterwards, so they could never divulge it? Like, who knows, right?
Yeah, or even some of his.
That might have been a good question to ask.
Yeah. Next time.
See, I think about these now, like 28 years later. Thanks a lot.
It's okay. My friends who have been to the Great Pyramid, they've all said the same thing. They let me in for an hour. I just had to tip them a little bit. I'm pretty sure the tour is an hour. They just make it sound like it isn't, so they get more money. It's like, oh, no.
Oh, God, I don't know.
Yeah.
These guys were just like, I got to climb the pyramid and everything. I got a picture next to the pyramid, next to the sign that says, don't climb the pyramid. It's the guy with a gun. It's like, right on. Kudos.
I'm climbing the pyramid. There are, one of the questions here in our chat room on Facebook was, some spirits don't know they are dead. How could they not know they're dead?
Oh, gosh, a lot of reasons, as you would know. I think sometimes there's that theory that when you're shocked out of the body, you don't have time to really think about it. And that being said, car accidents, murders, things of that nature, it happens pretty fast. And when the body ceases to have life, sometimes the spirit literally gets bounced out of it, and they don't necessarily realize that they've passed on. So, those are just two examples. But it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad, because you can't, sometimes you can't reach them.
No, and the ones we had a number of them are car accidents where they die instantly, and there was not too far from where I did a paranormal investigation, actually, in a small city just south of here, and a very sensitive person pulled up to the car accident, and there was a couple of people on the sidewalk looking at the car. It was right after the accident, and somebody leaned in to the driver's side and the passenger's side, and there was a girl who had passed in the car, and he was trying to move her, and that's when the girl on the sidewalk really realized it was her, and she starts screaming and freaking out, but the sensitive person could see her, but no one else could. And same with a friend of mine who was a nurse in the Vancouver, out here in Vancouver, British Columbia, in the emergency ward. They had
you must see it all the time.
a young girl from a car accident passes away on the table. They move all the table, or her gurney and everything out, clean the place out, bring a guy in who's got some abdominal problem, and he's moaning and just half out of it. Then he starts screaming for the nurse to get that girl out of there. And they came in and said, "What girl are you talking about?" They said, "Her, the one who's screaming at me." Well, she passed away, and her body had been moved. And she's freaking.
It's sad, because we don't think to tell people in situations like that. Because if you're not a sensitive or a medium, or if you can't see them, and yet we all have the ability to do it. It's just some people just forget how, right? You're all born with it. But it's sad, because how many people could you actually, how many times could you prevent it just by saying, move on? Whenever I have been close to someone who has passed, I've always said, move on, go. Don't be afraid of that light,
Yeah.
Go.
We had the one I was telling you off air, and I won't get into too many details on it, but we did a remote viewing, and we ran into a character who there's no way he wanted to leave. But my conversation with the person doing the remote viewing, not including him in the conversation, was all about crossing over and how it was done. And there was another spirit, Elizabeth was there, and she said, I'm good. I like the family here. When it's time for me to go, my husband will come and get me. But this bit of a jerk, he wasn't believing us, and he said, well, I'll try it, but James, if you're lying, I'm going to haunt you.
Nice.
Oh, okay. That's going to be somebody just said there is sound keeps dropping here, which is awkward. It looks like everything's coming out okay on this end. You can hear me okay, can't you?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Oh, perfect.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, I think there is the people listening on Skype, there's cutting in and out. But
probably getting a lag.
Possibly a lag. Yeah, so it was kind of an odd thing to have this guy interacting with us and saying, okay, I'll try it. He then walked in and then realized he could do it, and it was all fun and good on the other end. And he went going, and he went on. So that was absolutely amazing for us. Well, not so much for the person doing the remote viewing, because she does it all the time. For me, I'd never been the other person on the phone, and the remote viewer was in the United States. And
a lot of the people who can remote view can also do remote clearings. I've worked with a lot of people who've done remote clearings. It's just fascinating to me how they do it. But yet, I can do it on site, but I can tap into spirits off site. It's just interesting how, some people just, I guess they call it remote dowsing, right, where they can get in there and walk their way around and then just pop them out of there. It's like, wow, it's just fascinating to me what, the gifts, how they vary and how people can use them and, so successfully, because it's not an easy thing. It can be pretty draining,
Yeah, that is odd.
But kudos to them.
Yeah, to me, it's completely different. Do you use? One of the questions we had was moving on the malevolent beings, the cranky ones. Have you ever had to go kind of toe to toe with these guys?
Yeah, a lot.
Give me an example of what...
Well, you know what? There have been cases that I have done. My longest one was 11 and a half months. When I take on a really malevolent case, I try to work with the religious background of the family, if there is one, because that's where they draw their faith from, right? So we start with that, and we get into, like, I usually will work with, like this particular case, I worked with a few mediums, and there was a child involved, and there was more than one malevolent being there. So once we were able to get through, you know, how it got there, and usually it's when there are kids involved, it's because they're being tricked into inviting them, you know, little playmates, so on and so forth. But with this family, again, with the religious background, we ended up working with a Christian group because, again, this is, you know, the family's wishes. And this particular group, I had a friend of mine who was a minister out of North Carolina. It was just wonderful. And they had a group of people that traveled the world doing their version of exorcisms on, you know, these malevolent or AKA malevolent, demonic, you know, whatever you want to call them. And we waited. We had to wait for these guys probably 6 months. Like, they had quite a waiting list, and they were passing back through Ontario almost literally a week before Christmas. And, you know, it was fascinating to me because we always talk about people's different techniques. And I was able to clear one out of there. But this other one, he was hard, and he basically, or it basically, like, they do what's called piggybacking. They will infect many locations if they can. This one only did 2. I've seen them go as high as 5 or 6, but this one only did 2. And when this medium and this group came in, she was a psychic, and she worked with a gentleman who documented everything. And took photographs, and she did this thing called speaking in tongues, which I had never heard before. And I mean, and I work with a lot of different religious backgrounds. So, you know, I work with shaman, and I work with, you know, the church, and I've worked with, like, basically, you know, priests and all kinds of, you know, religious denominations. And honest to God, at first I was kind of like, it sounded like gibberish to me. And I was kind of like going, oh my gosh, what is this? You know what I get myself into, sort of thing. Do you know they were there 2 hours and left me in awe, I have to say, because I was in contact with the people at the second location, which was out probably about an hour away from here, north of here. Do you know within that exact same 2-hour period, both houses got cleared? And they never split in the other one?
Weird.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was,
I shouldn't say weird.
It was different.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I sat back and went, God, this is fascinating. Like, I think, you know, when you have the power behind the words, it's amazing what you can achieve. And they remained clear, oh gosh, probably for about 2 or 3 years. And then I got a call one night, and she says to me, I think you need to come back over for dinner. I become very close to the people I help because it's a haunting of that nature is a very personal thing. And I don't like to keep it really formal. You know, I like to, I'm interested in the people that I help. And I never put myself off limits to them. So we become friends. So she says, I think you're supposed to come over for dinner. And I said, well, why is that? Not that I'm not happy to see you. You know, she was more local, so it was easier for me to interact that way with her. And she said, well, the kids were in bed. Her husband worked away from the home a lot, and he was out of town. And she said the TV was on, but the sound was completely off because I didn't want to wake the kids. We were all, you know, they were all upstairs. And she said, all of a sudden, this growly voice came through and said your name. I went, oh, wow, all right. You know, I'll be over tomorrow. I'll pick up some takeout, you know, call the restaurant, grab some food, and come over. And, you know, I came in through the door. She opened the door, and I could hear boom, 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 like upstairs. And I just looked up, and I went, oh, all right, well, that's interesting. So, I just basically smudge the house, and again, power behind the words. I don't go in there, saying prayers or anything like that. I mean, I'm very spiritual, but I believe in many different religious backgrounds. I believe many of them are very similar, and I do believe in the powers that be, and so on and so forth. I never really get into much about my religious beliefs. It's a whole other topic of conversation, and it's like politics. This one you should avoid. So, but I definitely, I love the faith, and I am a very faithful person for sure. But, I just basically, tried to tap in, like, why are you here? And no, it's not going to work. Smudge the house. And I mean, you probably could have choked a horse by the time I was done, and that was it. And it never resurfaced after that. I think it's catching it on time because, again, I worked with her, and she saw, obviously it was an obvious sign, but, she said, you know what, things are kind of changing a little bit in the house. I could see, the kids getting more irritated, and it felt heavy. And this is stuff that she never recognized the first time around. And I think, so by seeing the signs, catching it, we were able to deal with it almost like literally immediately, and the problem was solved.
Oh, that's very cool.
So
well, good for you.
It's definitely very different. Yeah.
To my lay listener, what does smudging actually do to the energies that you're moving out?
I believe it just, of course it's a native, Canadian Native American thing, and they use it all over the world. And a lot of even, the Wiccans will use it. A lot of religions use it. I guess sort of the Catholics or the Christians in the church when they're burning, frankincense and myrrh. You're cleansing the environment. You're making it uncomfortable for these beings to basically exist in it. And it's not something that you can do every single, or like once in a while, rather. When I work with people, I get them doing it pretty frequently, like sometimes once a day, twice a day, literally, and then they can taper off as they go along. But even I find myself, when I'm having a bad day and I've got that, from a negative day, or I've got that negative attitude, I will burn some sage. Or there's many different types of incenses you can use that will do the same thing, as you know. And it calms me down. It relaxes me. And it just cleanses the environment of negativity.
And I use Palo Santo wood because it smells way better than burning field grass. And sage.
Oh, see, I love sage. I love sage.
It depends.
So I love the smell of it.
Yeah, and you can get some really good sages and blends.
Yeah.
But I just stick
go
to the
to
Palo
our
Santo.
Reservation up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you like that. I should try that.
Yeah, Palo Santo is what South Americans use, and the Palo Santo tree, the wood is harvested from a tree that's naturally fallen over and died. It's not picked from a living plant. But it's absolutely beautiful smell. It's hardwood, so it lasts a long time.
Yeah.
And it's...
I'd be interested in trying that.
Give that a shot. It's really, really good. I always get the people who say, I don't believe in ghosts and all that voodoo stuff you do with your smudging. And it's really, I'm a devout Christian. I can't believe in that. Well, the three wise men, two of the three things they brought, for goodness sakes.
What do you think they burn in What do you think they burn in the church?
Yeah.
Frankincense and myrrh. I've used raw resin, frankincense and myrrh. I don't just use sage. I've used frankincense and myrrh and burn it on charcoal, so it's really strong and potent, the exact same way they do it in the church.
Yep. You just don't have to swing that weird little thing. Yeah.
I don't.
The Jewish religion has the same thing, that swinging thing with the smoke in it. There was a ghost of a young girl upstairs of a party shop in the town where I live, not too far from my house. And she's been bouncing around a few of the buildings in the area, but used to be upstairs in the abandoned area above this old party shop. And they'd hear her giggling and running around and opening and closing doors. Well, they decided they started making popcorn for the to sell in the big, like $20 for a giant bag of popcorn. And the fellow who owned the shop burnt some popcorn one day, had to open all the windows and push all the smoke out, and the little girl's never been back.
Oh, wow, really?
He pushed her out, not because it just burns. Because corn was something in the, back in the day in the southern U.S. and in through Central America was something they used to also burn and move spirits. It just because it burns at a very high vibration, where the entities that were moving are very low. Yeah. So it just pushes them right out. Did you ever bring anything home with you?
Yeah, all the time. I know I say it very lightly. I remember, many years ago, being married and I sit up one night and I could see something moving around. And my husband at the time gets up and goes, "What are you doing?" I'm going, "Do you see that white light?" It was just flying around one hole, going along the ceiling in the bedroom. And I'm looking around, no reflection anywhere. Because I'm pretty, even though I'm a medium, I always say I'm the worst medium on the planet because I'm always trying to debunk myself because I'm pretty logical too, right? Yeah. So I'm like checking for everything. Like, what is this thing? Then I start seeing it's just kind of erratically moving around. And he looks at me frustrated and goes, "Oh," he goes, "Quit bringing your work home." And he lays back down and goes back to bed. I'm like, "Why not like getting invited?" But I find that was just a sign that, and it was pretty tame. That one was just at a location that I worked at, and it was interesting. The spirits would come all the time with messages. I accepted it, pretty well. But I've had things come home. My daughter one time, she's very clairaudient and clairvoyant, and I was working a case again. This one lady, I guess her mom died, and she started playing with a pendulum. And I always say, you know what? When you start asking for communication, everybody, raps the Ouija board and so on, and any form of communication though gives you the same outcome, whether it's a pendulum, even a tape recorder. If you are asking for invitation, the medium that you use to get it is irrelevant. If you're asking for it, you're going to get it. And because I've seen it happen many times. I've seen people do EVPs in their own home, trying to contact a deceased loved one. It ends up bigger and badder things coming in. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen with Ouija boards, pendulums, spirit boards, planchets, dowsing rods, like you name it. I've seen it happen. So she started using her mother's old pendulum. Her mother passed away, and she ended up with something coming in. Now, this woman used to work out every single day, never smoked, good healthy diet, young mother of two, happily married, big house, business, the whole deal. In 3 months, she'd gone from about 150 pounds to 90 pounds. Doing a lot of erratic things. It ended up that she had I guess she drove around for about, 15 hours with her kids in the car. Okay, and her husband just had enough.
I'm going to let you, I need to get you to hold that thought. We're coming up to the...
Hi there, this is Dave Scott.
Break,
and I would like
which
to
is Dave Scott right now.
Monday through Friday
we'll
right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick Webster Small, and I'm here to bring you the Webster Phenomena every Saturday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. If you're looking for aliens and extraterrestrials, well, we've got them. Big and tall, short and small, you're bound to find what you're looking for, so join me on the Webster Phenomena right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Rivulet Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrndr.wix.com/rivuletrndr, or my Facebook page, Rivulet R&R, to set up an appointment for relaxation, Reiki, or readings, no matter where you are. It's time for you to make time for you.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox, The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Tonight's edition of Spaced Out Weekend is brought to you by SpacedOutRadio.com, where you can now sign up to become a Space Traveler member. Now, for the final time tonight, here's Spaced Out Weekend's James Tyson.
Welcome back to Spaced Out Weekend, everyone. It is I, James Tyson. Thank you, Dave. We are with Canada's most haunted woman. Hold on, that's not right. We are with Michelle Desrochers. She is with Canada's Most Haunted. You can go to their website, look at all the really cool stuff they do and what they're up to, and what is it you guys do? We'll talk about what you do in a bit, but go to just Google Canada's Most Haunted, and you'll bounce into the website, see what's going on, and if you want them out to your location, and if you're in Eastern Canada, give them a shout. But Michelle actually said she's booked for about a year, so just hold on to your ghosts, okay? Just hold on to your ghosts. Michelle, before the break, we were talking about bringing things home with you. We'll continue on that with the growly thing.
Well, this specific story, again, this woman brought something in, and her life literally fell apart within 3 months, and eventually her marriage ended up falling apart. And with this being said, as to things attaching and piggybacking, I think things follow home. They follow people home when people are trying to help you. So every time I take on a case, almost without fail, I would say maybe 90% of the time, whatever is infecting that home will follow me back. So this particular, let me back up a minute. I remember interviewing the woman, and I asked her what this thing sounded like. And she said, it's a very soothing black man's voice. She goes, but it also has a bit of a growly tone to it. And I went, okay. And I had 2 mediums with me as well, right? So they were all picking up the same things. And I don't tell them anything when we go in there. I just kind of throw them in there and say, okay, do your thing. So later that night, my daughter, who's very clairvoyant, she was probably about 15 or 16 at the time, and she wakes me up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's poking me on the shoulder, and she goes, I have something to tell you. And I'm just like, seriously? Like, can it not wait till morning? Like, it's 3 a.m., right? And she goes, I don't think so. I went, okay. So I sat up and I said, what is it? And she said, this very sort of gruff voice basically has a message for you. I said, okay, what is it? And she said, you can't help her, Michelle. So right off the bat, I'm feeling, now it's personal because I've been named, and that bothers me a lot. But anyway, I said, okay, so I'm speaking telepathically, right, to this thing, and I'm going, and I said, don't you worry about what I can do. I can take care of it. And then she says to me, she goes, I don't think you can take care of it. And so now I know at least she's in communication with something because she's answered my question. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, $1 million question. I said, what does this thing sound like? My daughter, being my daughter, says, oh, a very sexy Samuel Jackson. She says, I'm like, all right, soothing black man voice it is, which was pretty well in tune with what the homeowner had told me, the voice that she was hearing. So anyway, and that was it. They rear their heads. They want to fill you out, I guess, and then they leave. I never had an issue with him coming back, but I have had things come through, and we have, we hear them sometimes walking the halls. And again, I just come home and I see something. I'll see something, a shadow or something going across the stairs, and I come upstairs and I'm like, hey. You're not allowed in the house. That's it. Get outside. It's just, I keep the house pretty clear. I don't make it easy for anything to get in, let alone stay in. Well,
yeah, and it'd be hard in your area because, like we said earlier, that you're in an area where if people could actually see what was outside, you'd have like lines of people moving back and forth. I just got total goosebumps all down my left side, which means there's something here with me.
Nice.
No, man.
I've been to Europe, a few times, and being such an older place, and so many more wars and battles and hardships, and it's like you say, if people could only realize that what actually is out there. I always say there's a whole other world that we share space with. We just fail to see the signs that they leave, and it's 100% true. It's always been very fascinating to me. Like, there's so many. I remember one time when my daughter was younger, going through the puberty, right? And young girls tend to attract a lot of that sort of thing. We had a spirit in the house, and I never, and we built the house. So it's not like it was in the house, as it was more so land-based. Mm-hmm. And it turned out he was a young man who had hung himself somewhere on an adjacent property. And I've got a fairly large property. So he would have come a little bit of a distance. And I never said anything to her. I never wanted to, freak her out or anything like that. So, she was like 14, and I'm thinking, it's already at that age where it's going to start causing me aggravation. And, what I didn't bank on is her friends would see him on their webcam when they were chatting.
Oh,
so she comes upstairs one day, and she says, okay, so what's with the guy with the plaid shirt and the trucker cap on? I'm going, what? She goes, yeah, his name's Bill. What's up with him? All my friends see him on the webcam. He's about 18. And I'm sitting there going, oh, come on now. Like, it's not even fair. I had no time to prepare for that one, And, he had really bad depression. And whenever he had that depression, we would feel it. The whole house felt really, really heavy. And I'd go downstairs and I'd say, okay, that's enough. When you feel like this, you got to get out. Because he would not cross. Oh, my God. It took probably 3 years to finally get that kid to cross. And he eventually did, But at one point, she says to me, she was walking downstairs. She wanted her room in the basement. So she took the whole downstairs. And she's walking downstairs with her arms full of laundry. And I guess she swiped the cat out of the way with her foot, gently. She goes, we don't want to trip over her and hurt her. And she says, I got shoved into the couch, because, like, Bill, the spirit, loved the cat. And you'd hear, like, the cat running around and coming up the stairs, and she'd, like, start shaking the door. So I'd open the door, she'd run through, I'd close the door, and you'd hear bam against the door. And I'd open the door, I'm like, knock it off. But then the cat would come back and start rattling the door with her paw. She'd want to go back down to play. So anyway, one night, my daughter has another experience. She gets up in the morning, and I'm going, God, you look wretched. What happened? Did you not sleep? She goes, oh, no. She says, I think Bill climbed into the bed with me. I went, oh, see, that's not cool. And she says, no, I could feel, the impression going down in the bed. And I'm like, what did you do? She goes, I stayed on my own side. I'm like, okay, you're not supposed to do that. And that was it for me. So I went down and I cleared the whole house. And, he would come in every now and then. I'd clear again, and we were finally able to get him to cross. I had another, again, one of these remote dowsers. And she was able to tap into him exactly. And together we were able to get him to finally give him that one shove. But again, being a suicide, a lot of people think, well, they stay behind because their religious belief as well probably taught him that you're not allowed to take your own life, therefore you get stuck here. Mm-hmm. I tend to personally think that it's more along the lines of, can you imagine the state of mind that you're in to take your own life? How low are you on your emotional scale to take your own life? Just because the body ceases to be does not mean that the spirit does not move on. And if that individual, it's the spirit that makes up your essence. So if that person is in a super deep depression enough to take his own life, that's not going to change just because the body stops working. I think that is more along the lines of why they stay back.
We had one in our basement who grew up here and committed suicide a few miles away when he was in his early 20s, and he came back and he hung out in the basement in the same area where he and his brother used to, bang the puck against a concrete wall downstairs. It was an unfinished basement. And ever since my oldest daughter was big enough to walk, she refused to go downstairs. She just wouldn't go. Later we found out she was a very high empath. And she actually her bedroom is his old bedroom. Oh, wow. And he really liked her. He just kind of mirrored. He was almost like a mirror of her age as she was getting older. That's kind of where he was. And we finally, after 2012, when I started feeling these things myself, I felt him. I could tell he was there, and I asked somebody about him, and they described who it was, and I said, I know exactly that guy's name. I know where he's buried, the whole bit. It's sad that he's still here. We actually, a psychic told my daughter and I how to cross him over, so we did it. And it was the first time we did it. We had a candle at our feet and kind of joined arms and imagined a light and the whole bit, invited him in, and we were told that when the candle went out, it's most likely that's when he went. But the candle didn't go out. Wow. So we tried it and left, and I checked with another psychic later. She said, oh yeah, he crossed. He didn't want to. She said his chin was on his chest, just head drooped and walking in, and off he went. But he's over now.
You know what they don't realize, I think how it works for me when I cross a spirit over is I basically tell them, look, you know what, go over even one time. Just do it one time, and you can come back. Yeah. Because at least if they come back, it's in visitation. They're not stuck here anymore. So any doubts that they might have about what if I want to come back? What if I like it here? But at least if they find their way at least one time, and they cross, and usually they get them like, oh, well, see, this is a lot nicer. But I have had spirits cross and then return almost immediately, but they don't stay. It's almost just like they're trying to see that they can come back. Oh, she was right. She didn't lie. I can come back if I want you, but you know what? I don't want to be here. Because they realize once they cross, it's just, you've left the baggage behind, you're there, your fears have been realized. But I think, with a lot of spirits, let's face it, I grew up Catholic, and they put the fear of God into you. I imagine, especially pioneers coming over, the Puritans, they were diehard, and it was like, you do this sin or you do that sin, and you're going to hell. Well, when you die, it's like, I'm better off staying here.
Yeah, because
I'm trying to make them realize that's not all correct. Your God is a loving God. You're safe to cross. It's okay. This happened a long time ago. You're okay.
Well, and that is the circle Skeeter and I used to get the three guys out of my bedroom and out of my house and off the lawn. Was they were afraid because of bad things they did in life. They were afraid they were going to go to hell in death. Well, as soon as they think and they really believe they're going to go to hell, that means they had some religious base to them. So you would say, why would God then sacrifice his only child for our sins if we weren't, if we were going to be punished if we sinned? Because it's basically a waste of your only kid's life. And it wasn't for the sins of everybody preceding the crucifixion. It was supposed to be for everybody after. So you plant that in their little cosmic heads and let that spin around. And they go, oh, okay. Well, not that easy. It's still, but it plants a seed. And if their belief system is there's heaven and hell and God and Jesus and the devil, you just played right into it, and you'll get them to go. Because you can't have one belief without the other.
Yes. No, you know what? There has to be balance. And I always say, because, I deal with people from all walks of life. Some people are believers, some people aren't believers. there are a lot of researchers out there that believe that, for example, the demonic are really more of an extraterrestrial race. I mean, it can get real funky and it can go in many different directions, you know, and I work with some amazing people with different theories all over the world, and I love being able to bounce ideas around and, you know, off colleagues. Yeah. Because I believe that it's important. You know, I'm not weird about my stuff like EVPs and stuff like that. I mean, I used to send my EVPs off to an EVP school in the U.S. And because he would give free EVP lessons to people. I'm thinking, well, if you're going to do it for free, then I'm happy to let you just pick apart my EVPs. Just, you know, and I have really great stuff. And, you know, I believe in sharing. I believe if everybody before us hoarded all their stuff, we would be no further ahead. You know, so those who came before us passed it on, and I believe that we need to pay that forward for future generations of researchers, you know, who are developing their own techniques and so on. You know, every little bit of information helps, and the field is growing vastly. Science has taken a huge interest in it, and you know, even religion has taken a backseat and kind of went, yeah, okay, we'll give you that one. You know, it's great, but you know, with that being said, I totally lost my train of thought. I apologize.
With that being said,
I have no idea what I'm just talking about right now.
Isn't the sky blue today? What?
Yeah, it's great.
Well, to get that stuff out there, to get, like you say, to share this information, as soon as I can figure out how to do this, our website for our group, we are actually going to post the raw audio of EVPs, or raw audio, and let whoever wants to come through and listen to see if they can pick something out.
Nice.
See, and I
love it.
That does kind of, there's a lot of people out there who would love to go out on a paranormal investigation, but maybe they're shut-ins, or they just can't get out to do something like that. They don't know how to do it. But they'd love to sit down with headphones and try to listen to what we're doing. And you and I both know it is a lot of hours, a 2-hour investigation with multiple recorders going, and those bloody ghost boxes going. Yep. And, you know, you can only listen to those too long. Best. So why not put them out to 200 or 300 people to dig through?
I think it's a great idea. You know, I believe in sharing, you know, information, and I believe that, you know, I've seen some teams where you've got, you know, some people like refuse to pass it around the team, you know. Yeah. What if this team member leaves or this or that, and they take all this information, and, you know, it's not gold, you know, and there's a lot of TV shows out there. A lot of people are trying to reach for that dream, and you know, it's as good as it could be, because you know, a lot of people are becoming somewhat educated. But TV is TV, and I've done enough of it to know that you don't have a whole lot of creative control. And most shows all have a gimmick, right? And the gimmick is what gets you the show. And what TV has basically done for myself is just allow people to find me. The people who really need me have found me. It's allowed me to film in places that might be otherwise off limits to research. You know, those are the two benefits of it, you know, getting the story out. But in the same respect, you know, when I get like an amazing, you know, photograph or voice recording, it's like, I don't look at that as like, oh, that's going to be a TV show. Like, I just don't care. Like, I don't care whether I do media or not. And I've always been very upfront with my producers about that. So I really don't care if I do media or not. But you're a great guy, and I'll go above and beyond for the producers I enjoy working with. You know, it's like, well, okay, can we do this? Can we do this? Oh, absolutely. You know, but there are some that are better than others. So with that being said, you know, you have this, that's where I get funky about my intellectual property, is because of the fact that once it goes online, you do lose it. It's no longer yours, you know, and it's not so bad. Like if you're just sharing it up with people and you're all trying to figure something out, like what you guys are doing, I think is a great idea. But unfortunately, it's like I've seen some of my stuff end up on shows I've never done, or and I'm like, what the hey is that? So it's like I end up having to have special contracts drawn up and things like that. Like I go above and beyond for people who want to learn, and unfortunately, like I said, when something gets out there, it really is gone, and the stuff that maybe you may have intended it for is totally out of your control.
Yeah, we kind of lock it down in one way. We have associate members and members. The associate members can be anywhere on the planet, and it's a private area for them. It's not everybody can get into it, and we know who these people are to a point. We've known them through social media, or they're fans of the show or something for years. So we do have an idea that they're not just doing it to horse around. And if it's something really, and it all comes down to the client too. If the client says, no, I'd rather you guys just listen to it, then that's what we'll do. But if the client says,
it's a privacy issue, right?
We don't put names on it. We don't put an address. In fact, we haven't even done it yet, but these are all the rules that, I've set. You don't know where it is. You just know this is the sound. Can you hear anything in there? And that way we can get through it a lot quicker, and it's a lot easier to share kind of the things we do. Plus, it opens us up for that kind of watchful eye to make sure we're not doing anything silly, where you're taunting or asking stupid questions, because I would refuse to put anything, if I get all the audio in and there's stupid things on it, it gives me an opportunity to call not the client, but the team member in and say, look, you're going to have to buckle down or move on.
Yeah.
The first group I was in, they never got back to any of their clients.
Yeah. Well, if you have a tight team, I think it's great. I mean, Canada's Most Haunted has had the same team for at least, 10, 14 years. I mean, we are very tight. When I go out with my team, I don't have to say anything. Everybody knows what everybody's got to do. I'm not like, okay, I'm the lead investigator and this is how things are going down.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, we're friends, and everybody knows what needs to be done. And in fact, my two girls on the team, they're wonderful. We've traveled, to Europe together. We've investigated there. They take great care of me, honestly. One is like a total travel guru. I don't even have to think when we're away ever. I mean, the girl has everything planned out, and it's like, she goes, what do you want to do? What do you need to see? Bam, 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 bam. Done. I mean, I am on an itinerary so tight it's not even funny, and she has taken on a lot of the, the EVP work, which is great. I love it, and honestly, those two girls take the most exceptional care of me. But our team, is so tight, honestly. It's a matter of, we get to a location, they could tell by the look on my face, they could tell by a gesture, what my expectations are. It's so smooth. It's no effort at all. And I think it comes from being years with the same people. I see so many groups, bickering, because I have a lot of friends in the industry, we'll sit down and they'll be like, can you come and just talk with our group, and just try to figure out what the flaws are. I'm like, well, I don't mind doing that, but I mean, it's not really up to me I don't really know these people, and you guys all have to find your own way. I've just been really fortunate that I have an amazing, amazing team.
Yeah. And for the listener,
well, how do you?
Sorry, for the listener again, if you go to Canada's Most Haunted Media.com, Canada's Most Haunted Media.com, that is the website, and you also actually just go to the Google net, throw in Canada's Most Haunted, you'll listen, you'll hear and see and poke and prod and all the cool things that they've been up to, and see their services and spookle events, special events. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did, as we're kind of running down the last half hour. I want you to tell my listener and I some of your most haunted locations you've been to? And not that, okay, this was haunted, but what did you see and what did you hear?
Yeah. I think probably the most memorable one, like I say, we're pretty fearless on average. My team is very tight. They're very well trained. But I think the most memorable one is when I traveled with the girls over to Romania. And we spent probably about, close to 3 weeks there. And we went to, the very famous haunted forest, which is the most haunted forest in the world. Apparently it's gone to number 1. And a lot of people have gone in there and had experiences. Like I said, now with, camera phones and everything, all kinds of things get caught. You can almost do a whole investigation with your phone nowadays with all the stuff they have in them. But I think, one of the more popular TV shows went in there. I think Destination Truth went in there at one point, and they recorded a couple times with the University of Cluj. They did not record themselves. And I know we were like 3 days behind Ghost Adventures, I think, when we were in there. So anyway, people don't realize it is a 4-kilometer hike up into the forest. So we went up during the day, and it was the night of the supermoon, and people were like, oh, yeah, you're trying to just get the full effects of the supermoon. I'm like, no, I'm actually just trying to make sure I find my way out 4 kilometers out of the forest in the middle of the night,
Just follow the werewolf.
The close side of me. Oh, no, not much of a road, But it was interesting because, I wanted to get a perspective of it during the day as well. So when you walk into the forest, you realize very quickly all the trees are bent out of shape and very crooked, and it's very silent. There's no birds, there's no animals, nothing like that. It's very strange. Beautiful, though. It's a beautiful forest. So we come up to the clearing, the famous clearing. There are actually 2 circles in the forest, but we came up to the main one that everybody filmed at, and had picnic, something to eat, and then I had a nap. Only because of the fact that intuitively I wanted to kind of tap in to what was going on there. So we could feel something kind of circling. It was interesting. So I just laid steady for a while, and one of the girls said, well, there were 4 of us. I had my 2 girls from CMH, and one of the girls had her friend who very, very, very skeptical. I'm thinking, perfect. I like having a skeptical dude there because they basically, they question everything, and I like it. It keeps you sharp. So anyway, I said, okay, there's 6 ways into the forest, so into the circle. I said, just avoid the one in the corner there because something's starting to fester. She goes, okay, I'll save it for last. I said, perfect. So anyway, she gets to that corner, and she's kind of has her hand on her chest. She goes, I feel something very heavy in my chest right now. And Melissa and I were off to the center, and we're looking at her, and behind her, the tree's starting to go. It's like somebody's just pushing it down, and you can hear it kind of cracking as it's going down. And I'm thinking, I bet you're feeling real heavy about now. And the thing just popped up and snapped like a big crack, and she jumps out of the way, and she goes, why didn't you tell me? It's like, oh, please, have a good time, that was really interesting. So anyway, as we moved along, we realized the only sound you hear in the forest is a droning sound. It sort of sounds like, literally, just like that. And we came to find out that it was under a no-fly zone, besides that. And it's also known as Romania's Bermuda Triangle. There are actually reports of people disappearing. The most famous one was a 5-year-old girl who disappeared. And 5 years later, she reappeared, still 5 years old, and totally mentally messed up. Like, this child was not the same child that went missing. The family just was like, oh my, like just totally blank stare, whole bit, not right. Anyway, with all that, under our belts, as we came to learn, later that night, we were doing a ghost box session in the forest. And we're speaking with spirits that, again, the language barrier. They started off speaking Romanian. Adriana is Romanian, so she was able to translate. And I asked, can you speak English? And the box said da, which is yes in Romanian, and then went yes. I'm like, perfect. So we get to talking, making some communication and validating a lot of information that we knew. And something comes through the box with like a growling. And anyway, it got set straight. And in setting this thing straight, it got a little upset. So all of a sudden, the skeptical guy turns around, and when the skeptical guy looks at you and says, I don't think that's supposed to happen, you know you're onto something good. So he goes, he just pointed back, and he goes, I don't think that's supposed to happen. And we turned around, and the tree line, it looked like it was folding down, like something was walking over or pushing it over. And it was like nothing we'd ever seen. And I would have even kind of second-guessed myself, except for this guy was just like, he had an answer for everything. And that was the first time that night when he went, there's just no explanation for it. So with that said, right after the tree line started to come down in the one corner, the box says, go now, run. We're like, all right. Well, I'm not going to run, but I am out of my element, So it was a 4-kilometer hike going back down, and the whole way down there was just something there. You could hear it, just like in the leaves and the brush, like behind you, just going. It was crazy. And that night at the hotel, which was at the base of the mountain, pretty well, something was pacing around the room, and Adriana called in from upstairs, and she said, there's something walking around the room. And then the phone just started randomly ringing. This is a brand spanking new hotel. You pick up the phone, there's somebody on it. It was just all kinds of craziness. It was a pretty interesting evening, shall we say. So we are set to go back in August.
Why not?
I know, it's a camping time, but we decided we're going to spend the night there, though.
Good. The dead center of Europe.
Why not?
Oh, Lord.
So if I survive the experience, it might make for no show.
What is the coolest thing you've actually recorded? Now, I mean, when I say coolest, I mean, yes, you can see spirits, but have you ever had a really good photograph of one?
Tons. Yeah, we have some amazing spirit photography. Actually, the website probably has. There's probably some on the website. We have all kinds of them, but some of them get put onto the website, and we sent off the apparition photos to be analyzed. I used to have a friend in the UK who used to analyze a lot of photographs that used to go to some of the groups out that way, and he was affiliated with Cambridge University, so he had access to some pretty interesting equipment. And this used to it was like an infrared program, so they would be able to tell if something was, if it was something real, like a camera strap, for example. If it came back with a question mark, that's kind of what you wanted. They never ever said to you, okay, this is something, paranormal. They would just say, we have no explanation. So it requires further analysis or further research. So that's kind of a good thing,
yeah.
But we definitely have had some phenomenal photographs. Voice recordings, oh my God. I used to have something that used to call my house all the time. And I've got hours of recordings. The homeowner from this old mansion I used to work at would call me on a cordless phone all the time. And you know how they can kind of tap into radio frequencies, right? So this thing would come through all the time, right through the phone, and you'd hear like growling, and oh my God, I've been called every name in the book like multiple times, and tons of recordings. I would get messages on my answering machine while I'm on another call. It started leaving messages on my cell phone, which I found, that was pretty new back then. To be able to get them to come through cell phones. Landlines seemed to be pretty normal, but cell phones were a little bit unusual, but somehow this thing figured it out. So doing EVP analysis with these things, and I would send these off to colleagues like around the world and say, logical? Is it somebody just horsing around? is a paranormal. And because when you're dealing with alleged demonic stuff, they come in at under like 90 hertz when you're doing the scale. They're an inhuman voice, and they were all coming in at that, at under 90 hertz. Because the human voice comes up at over 700, right?
Yeah.
So under 90 hertz, all of them. It was interesting. I remember one time my husband was, just watching TV. I was cooking dinner for the family. We're going back to 2007 now, or 2006. And the phone rings, and he answers it. And honest to God, I could hear something coming through the phone, like this loud growl, like, "Wah!" And I'm going, oh, this should be good. And I'm like, wait for it. Let's see what happens. And all he says is, it's for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So just talk to it for a minute. I need to wash my hands. He goes, no. So not happening. By the time I got on the phone, it was gone, of course. But it was interesting. I just learned to keep a voice recorder handy, and whenever that phone would ring, bam, I would just put it on speaker and record.
Oh, that is cool.
It's very cool.
Do you know who it was? Like who the actual human had been?
Yep. It wasn't a human at all. It was very inhuman, because every time we analyzed it, it came out at under 90 hertz. So definitely there was an entity in the house, and it turns out.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
No, I was going.
Your turn.
No, it's like ping pong. No, I was wondering if you actually identified who the spirit was.
Well, it wasn't a spirit person. It was like a very malevolent, inhuman spirit. Because when we sent off the recordings for analysis, as you know, inhuman spirits come in at under 90 hertz when you're doing the EVP scales, right? When you're doing the analysis. Yeah. And it all came in at under 90 hertz. A human spirit voices come in at up over 700 hertz.
Because I've had a lot of the 90 hertz ones, but they were actually people.
Really? Oh my God! All of ours came in under that, and these things are just they're just growling at you the whole time.
Oh, okay. I haven't had those. So I started looking at the obvious. I wasn't getting a whole lot of conversation. Some of it was really when they were speaking, like some words. Again, they all have certain tones, but it's like, picture yourself like talking to Gollum. I hate to compare it to Gollum, but it sounds a lot like that. And they all have different tones. It's all very different, But regardless of the fact, there was the house, the hill the house was built on, were used apparently by witches used to have covens there way back, like 1800s, before the house was ever built. So the things that would come in, you'd get all the wretched smells, you would get scratches. One time, the family did an experiment with baby powder and on the table, and when they came in, there was like a 3-clawed print in it. So they put a big glass cover over it, like a big cake cover, and waited, like it sat there for like probably 2 weeks before I was able to get there to see it. And I just left it for me to see for myself, took a bunch of photographs. And the house is notorious for having really large pieces of furniture being moved. Heavy pieces of furniture being moved. They had tables there that would have taken, it used to be a restaurant, so they had the big tables with big wrought iron stands on them, and, it takes at least 2-3 guys to just barely be able to pick up and move. And these things would just like flip over, like dangle on their sides, just barely dangle. Human spirits don't have the energy to do that. Oh, really? Interesting.
Most anybody who works in really malevolent hauntings, and I've had researchers from around the world tell me the same thing, because I reach out, man. I get something weird, I reach out to my colleagues, and I say, okay, I just need a validation, right? And most of them, mediums included, will tell you that a human spirit does not have the strength to be able to move really heavy things like refrigerators or like huge dining room tables. I've seen, no word of a lie, and videotape, I mean, large dining room or harvest tables coming literally up off the floor. I don't mean like hovering around in a circle crazy, like 4 feet off the floor, anything like that. But I mean, coming in a few inches off the floor and float.
Okay.
How does a 7 to 8 foot table do that?
Very carefully.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
so.
you make a good point about the energy of human spirits, because a lot of times we can't get them to talk. They have to really, really crank up, kind of tap into some energy before they can say a word out loud, let alone, or even knock on a wall, let alone lift a table up.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen tables, just on carpet, big tables being moved from one side to the other, just like it's like they're being rocked, and I mean, and the stuff's been videotaped, it's not like I'm just saying it. I mean, I put my money where my mouth is for sure, but, it's definitely interesting. But again, that's what the research is about. I think it's when the research stops, the fun stops. It's all about learning. I've had people say to me, they'll call me an expert in the field, and I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm a student. I don't believe in experts in the field. I really don't. How do you have an expert in something that you can't explain and that changes over time and that you have no definitive proof for? Now, I believe there are people out there who are a heck of a lot better at it than others, for sure. But I mean, I'm definitely a student, and Lorraine Warren taught me that. We're all students, dear. And I went, you know what? Yes, we are. She was at my age. I'm still a student.
Oh,
it's all about learning.
This is, and it's one of the best things to do if we have questions. As sensitive people, as empaths, mediums, or whatever, we're walking around, we want a bunch of answers. Now, imagine if somebody has another issue in a house and actually opens their door and says, come on in and see what I have. And it's a win-win. Yeah, we can come in, try to identify this, and move it on. And in the meantime, I'm asking questions and trying to get answers for myself. When people say,
"Oh, for sure,"
why are you a paranormal investigator? It's the people the paranormal investigators who say, I do it to help people or help spirits. Nah, we do it because we have questions, and the helping a spirit cross or helping a client is a byproduct of me wanting to get answers to all these questions I have in my head. Why am I listening to a disembodied female telling me she can't let go, and that's why she won't leave? Or why have I seen full body apparitions that weren't there? I know I'm not crazy-ish, but if I can get answers,
it's knowledge.
Yeah,
for sure. It's about getting answers, but I mean, for me, for Canada's Most Haunted, it's always been about the people first. If at the end of helping somebody if it wasn't for that person, first of all, you won't be in there getting any information. They're offering you up that location, sharing in their experiences for you to be able to gain knowledge, and hopefully in hopes of helping them. But in the same respect, I've seen people, their lives are falling apart, and I've been brought in to help on a lot of those cases. And then I have other, right after I'm gone, and I've just worked with this family who have nothing to do with communicating with what's there, because it's just torn their life apart for 20 years, and they're done. They want to move on, and no one's been able to help them to this point. And with that being said, then I have a researcher coming up behind me with a new piece of equipment saying, "Oh, let's try to communicate. I want to try this new piece of equipment." What are you, new? What do we just spend like 4 hours doing? Working with this family. And you know what? They've stuck to exactly what it is I helped them do, and they're clear. And they've moved on with their lives after 20 years. So, I think researchers have to learn at some point, not everybody, I mean, a lot of good researchers get it, but there are a lot out there who are maybe new to the field, or who just, have the mindset of it is just about the knowledge. You have to make it about the people. If you can come out with something after doing what you've been brought in to do, then good for you. That's perfect. Now, you've just managed to kill two birds with one stone. But when it stops being about the people who really need the help and whose lives are being torn apart and who aren't sleeping every night, I worked a case, honestly, her baby was literally being woken up every, 10 to 15 minutes. That's a little baby.
Yeah.
Thrown out of the crib one time, another different case, baby thrown out of the crib. So it can't be about the research at that point. It has to be about that family.
Yeah.
The family has to be first. It always has to be the people first, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's like, no, we are researchers. It's our job to do that. But then, then maybe go to a public place that allows research, I did all the events at Casa Loma for 5 years. Pack the house all the time. People come in, here you go. These spirits love to interact, maybe it's about that. Maybe you should be looking for cases where people just want to be familiar with their ghosts. They like their ghosts and they want to learn more about them, and they open their house to research so people can come in and learn about them, and they can learn along with you as to what their spirits enjoy or what their likes or dislikes are, or personalities. But when you're dealing with really aggressive hauntings, you can't lose sight of the fact that it's got to be about the people first and foremost.
Yeah, that was, I would be a little bit hesitant if someone phoned up and said, I've got 10 ghosts in my house and I don't mind them being here because they don't do anything. Could you come over and see if you can name them? The first thing I'd want to know is do they really want to be in the house? Because,
oh no,
the living guy is good, but I want to know if we could help them cross.
Well, I'm not talking 10 ghosts. I'm talking somebody might have one, sometimes two, Usually a person's got one ghost in the house, and you got to find out why they're there, and then it's like, well, let's cross them over. It's got to be about the spirit people, too. When you're dealing with sweet spirits who are stuck, no, you want to cross them over. It's the right thing to do. I have tackled, homes and cases where people were using the spirits there, whether it be for attention or, I've had cases where I've turned down cases where homeowners have had so many groups in there. And I'm like, why? Why are these spirits not been moved on? Why are they still here? Well, we like them. But it's not about you. These are people, These are people who are stuck for whatever reason. It's not about you. It's about them. You're not being tormented. Therefore, it's now plan B is it's about the spirit. Right?
Wow.
And then, like you say, you get in there. Why are you here? Do you want to be here? Do you want to go home?
Yeah. And that's really important for me I know for Dave Scott, who does a show Monday to Friday, when we do paranormal investigations, we really pay attention to the information we get. It's those people who say, well, I do paranormal investigations, and we ask, well, what do you do with the evidence once you get it? Oh, we analyze it. And then what do you do?
And
then
then
we'll get if we've got some good voices, we'll get all our friends to go back. No, it's like, analyze it. Did you get something? Do you have any more questions? Okay, get a hold of the client. Sit down with them. What do you want to do? This is what we have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This crazy paranormal group I first got hooked up with, they never got back to clients. They'd come in and they'd poke the bear and they'd go into some of the most haunted restaurants in this area. Heck, I think there's a vicious rumor that they actually unplugged a bunch of refrigerators in the bottom downstairs in the restaurant so it would be quieter, and then forgot to plug them back in. Yeah, wow. They're a bunch of clowns.
Well, hopefully they have insurance.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Honestly, we're like a fully we're a legal company, insurance, everything.
Yeah, well, and
that's going to somebody's house, I'm insured to be there.
Yeah, we all are. These are
Yep.
societies under the Society Act in whatever province we're in, and they quickly changed the name of the company after that. So it was like one of those fly-by-night construction companies. We're Bob's Construction until your house falls down. Then it's Robert's Construction. No, that wasn't us.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it was horrid. What a horrible bunch of dweezels.
Well, I guess that's what separates the men from the boys, as they say, right?
Yeah, it's. I think it's compassion and
due diligence.
Yes.
You know, like you have to know, you have to be responsible, right? Like you have to be responsible. You just can't go in there and just be ridiculous. Seriously, like and there's too many that do. You know, it's just like party time. Let's just go do this and stir things up. Just remember, you're always leaving somebody behind, whether you're leaving a spirit behind or whether you're leaving a family behind. Someone's getting left behind. The minute you say and accept the invitation to come in, that's when you show due diligence, and you have to basically do the best you can do for both the family and the spirit individuals.
Yeah.
Like the house, you know, the house that my best friend owns. His name is Wayne Mallows, and he's a vampire novelist. It's very cool. Anyway, the house is super haunted. The thing is like really. It's an 1872 Gothic Revival manor house. It is creepy just to look at it, and it is infested. And, you know, the spirits are really lovely. And we filmed there, you know, like it's home base for me, my home away from home. And after filming, you know, I'm going around, I'm turning lights off, and I'm like, you know, I always tell them, if you want to partake, you may partake. Do not feel obligated. Anybody steps out of bounds, and I'm just all over them, because they're very, very gentle spirits. But they're not stuck, you know. They're there in visitation. This is a really wealthy family in the Niagara Falls area that had several homes in the area. They're not even there all the time, you know. They probably bop around from house to house, but they're not grounded spirits, which is great. They come back in visitation as they feel like it. And at one point, I'm closing off all the lights, and I'm like, well, thank you very much for participating. And as I'm walking down the stairs, I hear a male's voice going, "It's all right." All right, great. Glad to hear it. You know, so there was one man who was stuck, and we were able to get him crossed over, like I think it was last year.
Wow.
Which was really nice. Yeah. It was great.
I think
love it.
Crossing over is or having somebody cross over is a really good goal, and something we should all kind of strive for as paranormal investigators. Stuff you don't see on television when you're seeing our friend, the wedding DJ, out with his buddies.
Get me going.
Don't
get me going.
Don't make me pull this car over, young lady. Yeah, I know. Good Lord.
All right.
Yeah. One of my favorite, actually, out of all your paranormal television show, what's your favorite?
Out of my what? Sorry?
All the television shows out there that are to do with ghosts and the paranormal, which one do you not mind watching?
You know what my most favorite one of all time was? It's an oldie, and it was called Scariest Places on Earth. Do you remember that one?
No, I don't.
Linda Blair hosted it.
Oh,
and they had the little right. Remember, they had the little creepy lady from Poltergeist, and she would do all the creepy stories as she went along. That was my most favorite show, because they would take a family of unsuspecting, wonderful people who wanted to go to the scariest places on Earth, and they would get dropped off in the middle of Romania or the middle of Pavaglia Island in Italy, and they would have to spend a night. And they would all be separated, which, of course, as researchers, we don't do, but it was kind of cool at the time. That is by far my most favorite movie, or my most favorite show. Now, I tend to enjoy Destination Truth. I like it. I like that sort of.
I'm a fan.
Got a mix of everything.
Of the Dead Files, just because it's two different, different approaches.
I think it's great.
The research part of it,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love the show. it's a shame that they don't have it on anymore. But yeah, what are you going to do? Unfortunately, you know,
they probably.
I love Amy Allen.
Yeah, and you know, anything that has a policeman in it, you know, being a Mountie.
Right. So then, how did you feel about Demon Files? Because that's
don't you make me go there. A friend of mine,
police officer.
A friend of mine was on that show, and they screwed that family from. He actually assaulted the son.
Oh,
this is a long conversation, and we have 20 seconds left in the show. So that's it for us.
I saw 2 episodes, and that was good for me.
Oh, it was crazy. Well, thank you, Michelle. And for everybody else out there, please go to our website. If you want to poke around and see what's going on in Canada, go to canadasmosthauntedmedia.com. And for everybody who tuned in from Australia to Sweden and all those places in between, please just keep an open mind.
That's it, let's roll. And hey! Let's be careful out there.
Far over the snow, what are those voices? They sing and they go, what are those voices? Look up for the mountain. Here come the mountain. Because somebody hide, somebody better hide on through the hill, like a pack of angry wolves on the trail. We are after you, dead or alive. We are out to get you, dead or alive. And forget your soul. If you're the one, better run away. Son, you are done. Throw your gun away. Here come the Mounties to get the man they're after now.
People. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Dave's not here!